The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. You're welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, as usual, I'm your regular host. And with me here in the studio are in-house analyst. We have your very regular Silas Ezegu.
Welcome to them.
And the political analyst of our kind, Chibuzo Ukaibe.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we are far behind time, or let's just go into the big issue of the day, which is the presidential candidates and the feasibility of their campaign promises ahead of the 2023 general election. It was the legendary Nigeria Afro pop music star, Feasibility, who sang that as if they are going to tell us another story again. And it's election year again, and of course we're beginning to hear plethora of campaign promises. And even in those campaign promises, we have been hearing that there are plans to even change the change of the last campaign promise made in 2015 and in 2019. And of course, Nigerians are watching with keen interest. And most of them are raising very salient questions about these campaign promises made by our major presidential candidates in the country. For instance, on Tuesday, presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and the Labour Party were in Kaduna, Jos, and Kogi states, respectively, where they made more promises, promising Nigerians about the packages they can offer to change the fortunes of the country. For instance, the presidential candidate of APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, said he was going to ensure that kidnappers, bandits, and the killers of Nigerians will meet their Waterloo as soon as he becomes president. And in just the presidential candidate of the PDP assured the people that he was going to restore peace and give them more representation at the federal level. In Kogi State, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, vowed to save the country from collapse. And Silas, we now ask, these are things we have been hearing before. According to Two-Face, he said, it be like say they want to tell us another story again. They want to tell us what we have not heard before. In 2015, the APC took over power and promised that the end to terror in the country has come. Banditry, corruption will be a thing of the past. And Nigerians say the things they promised us in 2015 and 2019 are things that instead of seeing the end, they now saw the beginning of the worst of those things they promised that they were going to put an end to. How can Nigerians promise the crop of presidential candidates we are seeing this time again to believe that what we are going to experience in 2023, whoever becomes president of the country then will keep to his promise of wriggling the country out of the economic and security morass is currently enmeshed?
The question you asked is, thank you for that question. It's the question that has no easy answer to it. My simple answer is that you can never know. You can never be sure that these people can live up to what they're saying. Okay? You can only look at the person who is running for the election, look at his antecedents. have power, which so they can have power to take government level. But it can only give you an expense gathered action can translate to something good. Can I trust him? It's about, can you trust this person to deliver on this? Because anybody can tell you that I'm going to carry code to Newcastle. Newcastle is the, at the time, I don't know about now, was the center of coal production. That's when you want to play, you want to carry coal to Newcastle. It's a waste of time, you know. So, of course, many times they also project to tell people when they want to hear. Say what they want to hear so that you have the moment. You know, when it now comes to the doing of it. That's why I like some of the presenters like us who talk to the candidates. Say, look, don't tell us what you are going to tell us how we are going to do it. Until you say, I want to set aside $10 billion for youth empowerment scheme, whatever.
$10 billion.
Yes.
How much is Nigeria's budget?
So where is getting good money from? We're asking, okay, this 10 billion. Can you give us an idea how are you going to borrow it? You have the money somewhere. Okay, when are you going to start bringing the 10 billion from day one, from the first year? Those are the things you need to, dissect for people to know. But people are not asking the question. You just go to one conference, one speaking event, say, I will bring $10 billion to, so that you can, the youth will be, energized to vote for him if they hear that the president wants to give them $10 billion. How much is Nigeria's budget? How much are we even borrowing to make up the budget? Does Nigeria have $10 billion to? How are going to get it? So these are things I expect people to be asking them. But when the time the foreigners where they speak those things, those questions are not posed. If they go to a rally, it's only the people at the podium that speak. They don't give the mic to the floor. They will just say, hey, hi, hey. So them have a brought there, on public transport and pay some tokens to come around. So they want, so they're even happy to be just at that place. It is at the town hall meetings where I think that intellectuals, journalists, talk show people, confide that that's okay, look, pick it up for us. The like some of I've had from some Lucas, some presenters. Tell us how. Tell us how. The person will be on the spot. Tell us how you're gonna do it. Don't just tell us I'm going to build a bridge across the desert. You don't build bridge across the oceans, across the rivers, across the people need to have bridges. You want to build one in a desert where there's no water. So, George, the answer to this is that you can never know. You can only hope and pray. Can also look at what they have done in the past. Look at the person, is this person worthy of trust? Can this person invest trust in you? That's the only way we can see. Okay. In the past, you have had places that didn't come true. So you can say everything twice shy. Just look at the person. If you feel that the person can be trusted, vote for him.
But the idea of this once bitten, twice shy doesn't really work on Nigeria, because from what Silas has just said, Nigerians are very gullible people. They can easily be deceived. For instance, in Niger State, the report we're hearing there is that as soon as the presidential candidate of the APC finished speaking, what came up was chants of "you don't win, you don't win." Without asking him, come, presidential candidate, all these things you say you are doing, going to do, how do you intend to achieve them? Because we've had past leaders who have said these things, and at the end of the day, it turned out to be a mirage. For instance, Tinubu in Kaduna State yesterday, let me just quote him directly. He said, while speaking to the people of Kaduna State, I think he even had to swear. He said, Inshallah, all those troublemakers, all those kidnappers, killers who are troubling the security of Kaduna and northern Nigeria, I assure you, we will eliminate them. At the end of the day, it's that kind of promise where you say you eliminate bandits, terrorists, as if it's just at the back of your hand. You use the back of your hand and just eliminate them. If that is how easy it is, then the current administration would have done that ever since, because efforts have been made. President Muhammad Buhari had been given marching orders.
The general himself.
It is a general himself who has all the techniques of military tactics in his head. Then we now have a presidential candidate who can only boast of the fact that he was once a governor of a state, telling us that what the current Buhari administration did not do, he will just do it just like.
He was the vice president.
You know, people don't, I don't understand. Nigerians must be very gullible if at the end of the day they keep every electioneering year, they come, they hear all these things, and what they only do is to cheer the candidates and to say, no, come, we are not. So that is what we heard how many months ago. What kind of scenario is this? Are we to trust this candidate with the way they are going about saying these things? As if one is just taking a cup of water.
Well, thank you. In a democracy, the bulk of what you have, particularly in an election, a transition period, is an opportunity for those who want to lead to tell the people what they want to do and how they want to go about it. And then the people naturally would have the opportunity to, listen, discern, and try to, choose who they think is best to solve problems, that they face. And so what we're experiencing now is normal to the degree that, these people who want to manage our affairs need to explain to us why they think they are in a better position, to do so. Now, I also don't want to pretend that we are at the level of some other more mature democracies, because I think we need to look at it from that angle also. Do we have an electorate that is mature democratically enough to make decisions as to who lead them at a certain level? These are questions we need to really interrogate, because, of course, I'm trying to avoid using the buzzword that we've used over and again, which is political will. It's become the regular thing to say about our leaders. Oh, they lack the political will. They don't want to do it because, and all of that. But at the end of the day, what democracy provides is an opportunity for the people to sit back and reflect and say, okay, whether as a party, whether as individuals, people who have managed our affairs in the past, how well did they do it? And it plays into what my Oga Silas has said. Character, experience, and the past. So antecedents, yes. Democracy provides that opportunity for people to sit back and reflect on how their affairs have been managed, in very recent times. And thankfully, we have 4 years for that. For them to reflect and really look at these people, all of the people that are coming up now, to say, okay, we think so. But perhaps some would argue that we are still evolving as a people, democratically. As to some others will say, oh, the influences of religion and ethnicity and all of that continues to be cloud judgments that ought to be logical as to choosing leaders. If these variables are true, the question is, how do we evolve away from them? Are we evolving away from them in a way that is healthy? Are we evolving at all out of them to start with? Then are we going to evolve away from them? These are variables and these are issues that as a people we need to really look at. Now, coming down to the the candidates. Of course, they are going to say what they are going to say. This is that time where they, say all the good things they have to say. Everybody has to put his best foot forward, make the best kind of promises. And I do agree with my other here that at least the media space has been awash with some good questions. Tell us the how, not about what you want to do. Tell us the how. There's been so much talk about manifesto. Now, if at least for the major parties, although some parties who don't like to be characterized as major parties, but we've seen a good number of manifestos out there, But the question is, are Nigerians really interrogating these manifestos? Are they looking at it the way they ought to look at it? Do they have time even to, interrogate what those documents are about? Do they make comparisons? Well, if you ask me, I've looked at a couple of them, and they're not so different in the sense that the major problems we have are still the same problems we've always had before. The security thing has been there across two parties in administration. And it wouldn't seem as if there's so much difference in approach and outcomes. Maybe one could beat the other, but slightly, not much has really changed because we are still facing these problems, if not in an escalated way, some would argue. So it's about, because it comes back to the people now. How are they interrogating what these people are saying? And how are they going to decide who to vote for? Because it comes back to them.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chibuzo. Well, we will quickly take a short break before we come to round up. And of course, the break is very necessary in order for us to tell you more about us and then get you more contacts for which you can actually reach us here in Leadership Podcast. And of course, as we do so, we hope that our viewers too will send in their comments so that we can round up with them and then tell Nigerians what you are actually thinking on about the conversation on the big issue. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is presidential candidates and the feasibility of the campaign promises they have been making. Silas, I think what we should be talking here is interrogation. I think Nigerians, they lack that sense of accountability where they will always call some of the candidates to really explain in clearer terms what they intend, because they just come, say them at the nominal level, and then Nigerians will take them. Although at campaign rallies, I know very well that we have the political jobbers, and they are the hungry ones who are just there to make sure that they get crumbs, some pieces of naira notes, and that is just enough for them. And at the end of the day, why is it that Nigerians are always very fond of mortgaging their future? Whenever they appear in rally, the intent, the mindset is, let me go there. I think there will be some free money there to go and collect that. That is just all. I think that is where the problem lies. Not as if most of them don't know that some of these promises are not feasible. For instance, now in Kogi State, Peter Obi told the people to avoid and reject money politics. And according to him, he said, reject their money. We can only tell you what we can do. We are not talking to you through any spokesperson. We are talking to you directly. When I become president of Nigeria, I will come to Kogi State, turn every senatorial zone, and I will bring prosperity to your state. We will ensure that the people return to the farms. The vast land in the state can feed Nigeria. Now, one will listen to Obi, because when he becomes president, he will come to go to Kogi State, to the senatorial district, one by one. Tell me how possible that a sitting president will have the time. Just one state to go for one senatorial district to one senatorial district to one senatorial district. That alone is enough for somebody to imagine that this amounts to just the magic of putting a piece of meat in the mouth and the meat disappearing. You know.
Okay, let me come to. There's something that we have always said. We have said that the vast lands in the north will be cultivated, turned to production. The line fallow is not helping the nation. So, and Kogi State is one state that has a lot of land mass that are, if you travel across Kogi State, most of the land is uncultivated. So I'm thinking that if it means what it's saying, lands like Kogi, Benue, and other places where I have a lot of agricultural pool, you're interested in how you can use it. Because always said about producing enough to feed your country. It's if your country cannot feed yourself, they're not even started. So going to territorial zone, if that is where he wants to base his agricultural revolution from, will not be too much of a task for a government. If it, so okay, when he was talking about his preparation for this job, he said he's going to 30-something countries, learning how they have governed themselves, how they attack their power, their port system, their custom system, and so on. So if you are going to 30-something countries, learning them how they do it, this is to go to one state, zone, I cannot do if you really means it. Anyway, I don't think that one is too much of a political promise that cannot be done. But when you're talking about making the country from production consumption
to production.
that's a lot. And it's not something I think that somebody can do in just 4 years. It even takes changing a mindset. Because what you have in mindset now is a mindset of sharing from national cake. We are doing a rent economy. You know, the oil majors give us whatever they think is our share. It's go to Abuja, go to factory, and share the money. And every state, every money comes there to share. So in that case, is this something can do alone, or is it going to change the constitution so that the states can become productive in their own state level? Are they going to change the right to minerals the way it is now, where the federal government has control, to allow the states to now go into mining both solid and mineral and liquid minerals? So this is what I want to hear him talk about. Okay, agriculture production, is it the federal government that will come and do it? Are they going to make money available to those who want to do large-scale farming? This government said they're going to revolutionize agriculture, diversify the economy. I expected to see tractors more than bicycles in Nigeria. Tractors and the farm machinery. That's what to make. Because if you send a man to go and cultivate land, he can only cultivate maybe one small piece of land in 1 day or 2-3 days. Because you have machinery, farm machinery, one person can till the whole of Asokoro. Well, not to generate. They can do a work that 1,000 men cannot do in 1 day. So that's what I'm trying to say. And God says move from production to production. It won't just be agriculture. The other things that we produce, clothes, other things are in the mix. So it's a big promise. And I've been waiting to hear people asking, okay, which one aspects of production, consumption to production are we going to do? Is it in petroleum sector? Is it in agriculture? Is it in manufacturing? What are they? Okay, how do you want to treat one of manufacturing, one of agriculture, one of? Do you understand? That's what I want to have ask him. Do you understand? So it's a big promise he's making. I don't know. I'm sure he knows what he's saying, but it's not something that can be achieved overnight, in 1 week, in 1 year, even in 1 term. It's changing a mindset for people from a sharing economy to a production economy. It's that was saying. So if can even have that change of mindset, that governors are not just people who come to collect and distribute and share and take the large chunk. If can even change that mindset, that's a lot in itself. So that's what I'm looking at. So if you're looking at Kogi and Benue and the middle belt area where agriculture is, where the land is fertile and there's water. Because the problem that if you have to go to far north, you have to talk about irrigation, how to revive those dams that are lying fallow there, and make sure that they can support, round the year farming. That's how you can do this, then you talk about, okay, fine, if I'm doing agriculture, what about the value chain? What about the processing part of it? Because we have always exported our raw materials, which don't give us much. I mean, primary products. How do you turn these products into finished products, which, not just agriculture, petroleum, across. But if it's agriculture, looking at, okay, these tomatoes that waste all the time when they produce them. If you go around, you see big trucks fall, and within 2 days, if they're not because those tomatoes are with imported tomato pool. How do you make sure that we have enough, processing plants that can turn those? So we'll not be importing tomato and all those other things we use to cook. That's what I want to hear people ask.
Well,
how are you going to do this?
Thank you very much, Silas. And of course, you just said something here. It has to do with the political will and the mindset. Because you say all these things and the leader could come. Let's assume Atiku becomes the president or Peter Obi. At the end of the day, it is not because Atiku is the president or Obi is the president that things will change. A lot has to be done too to actually overhaul and reform and transform all the institutions of governance, the civil service, and the rest.
Yes.
When Buhari came, he harped on corruption. At the point, what we're now hearing the Buhari administration say is that as much as they try to fight corruption, corruption keeps fighting back. I think this has to do with institutional change, the change of government institutions. Because without it, I don't think anything will change. Because if the politicians win and come and meet the same civil servant that are there, the civil servant will corrupt. Chibuzo, how can we do to address that particular issue of setting the pace for governance that is free of corrupt eggs? I think that is where Nigeria has
and indolence.
Indolence,
I think it's some people say it's a cultural thing, and some others will argue that it's a behavioral thing. But I think it's been said over and again, if the people see the quality and the character of a leader that leads by example, I think a good number of them will fall in line. If they know that this man does not tolerate this, and he doesn't just say it, he acts it, he lives it, they will fall into, they'll fall in line, like I said. And so I think there's no other clear idea on how to move people from a particular point other than the leader living what he says. But again, it's not just about, he wanting to live a certain way. He has to also have a broad-mindedness to ensure that he has, his politics right. Because if he doesn't get his politics right, he's going to have a lot of distractions, and that is where the problem starts. By that I mean, he has to, have a stable party. I know this might not be like a mainstream thing. It might be, partisan thing and all of that. Because if he does not have a stable political front, he would have to deal with a lot of distractions. And that might take away from what he has to provide at the level of governance. We've seen that happen a number of times. We saw what played out with Obasanjo and Atiku at some point, and it really distracted the government. We saw what played out with Jonathan, distracted a lot of governance. So that, I think, is also key. Then the quality of people in his team also matters. You might have all the good intentions and all of that, and then at some point, people begin to recommend who will work in your team. If you don't have that sorted, you might also be pulled in different directions, and might not, at the end of the day, have a grasp of what you actually intend, to achieve. So I agree. All of the technical things, to some extent, they might not be as rocket science-ish as it should be, but it is the little nuances, your ability to have a cosmopolitan idea of what the polity is per time that might determine how fast you go in implementing some of the things you want to do and how far.
Well, thank you, Chibuzo. Well, this is one series of scrutiny of the promises made by presidential candidates during campaign to control until the elections in 2023. And whenever the candidates go out and make promises, It is our duty, the big issue here, to hold them account by interrogating and looking at these promises they make and see how feasible they could be and whether Nigerians should believe them or not. That is the much we can take for today's edition of The Big Issue. Thank you for keeping tab with us out there. And of course, I would like to thank our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.